puppies are here, the puppies are here. Hello, and today we are here with yet another book haul. So I have been shopping at thrift books for like 5+ years now. It used to be where I got pretty much all of my books, and then it kind of changed into this trend of me reading books via audiobook or via ebook and then buying used or pre-owned copies on thrift books. So if you didn't know, thrift books is an online site where you can buy pre-owned or used books at really cheap prices. I've gotten books for as low as a couple of bucks, which is really nice. If you live on the mainland, the shipping isn't that bad. I know some people have complained about shipping times being really long, but I think that recently they've really improved that, and if you're on the mainland, it takes about a week or two to arrive, which in all honesty, for such a cheap service, is not that bad. So like I sort of prefaced, I do tend to buy books that I've already read through thrift books, and so today I'm going to show you guys books I bought recently in a thrift books haul that are pretty much things I've already read and loved, but I wanted physical copies of. So the first book I got a copy of is The Evercool Kingdom by Rinchi Peko. This is the second book in the Never Tilting World duology. I read this, I think, via audiobook, if not via ebook. No! Okay, this is one of those books that I bought a hardcover copy of that ended up unhauling and reselling because I have a paperback copy of the first book in the series. I'm not super picky about my books, but it is very nice when all of the covers match, and I do prefer paperback copies. So if I do want to revisit this, I would prefer to have a paperback copy, so I unhauled my hardback and I now have a paperback. The next book I got from thrift books is Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune. I read this a couple years ago, and I believe I read it via audiobook as well. It is my least favorite of Roselle Lim's works, I will say. However, I just read Sophie Go and I really loved Vanessa Yu. And while Natalie Tan is not my favorite one, I love having the entire series on the shelf. So I'm really excited to have all three books. I think that actually Natalie Tan's book is the prettiest. It has gold foiling on the front and it has this super cute like neon pink spine. Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune takes place in San Francisco. We're following a chef as she comes back home after the death of her mother, and she kind of rebuilds her relationship with not only herself and her mother, but her community through food. I really liked how there was some kind of like meddling when it came to some of the dishes that Natalie was cooking up, but I think that overall, like sentimental wise, it was the least home-hitting of Roselle Lim's books, if that makes sense. So it is my least favorite of hers, but still a really good book nonetheless. This is another book that I once upon a time owned a hardback copy of, but I have the first book in the series in paperback, so I unhauled the hardback to get another paperback. And that book is Court of Lions by Samaya Dowd. This is a YA sci-fi fantasy-ish duology. The gist is that these two girls are unrelated, but they have the same face. Amani comes from like a farm out in the solar system, and one day she is picked up by the royal family to be a double for Princess Mara. The story kind of follows the adventures of Amani as Madame's body double, including some romance with Madame's betrothed and political intrigue within the court and whatnot. I really loved this duology and I highly recommend it. I know a lot of people were disappointed with the sequel, but I really enjoyed the way that this duology wrapped up. I do think it was a little different in tone from the first book, which is Mirage, but still really enjoyed this and I still highly recommend it. So the next book that I got was a physical copy of Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I read this via audiobook recently and it became one of my favorite books of all time. So if you didn't hear me talk about this, this book follows a woman as she is called by one of her old high school friends to become the governess for that lady's husband's ex-wife's children. It's very convoluted. So these children are kind of special in that they catch fire. They just combust when they get stressed out, which honestly, me too. This book is a wonderful exploration of childhood trauma and the ways that our parents and the relationships that we have with our parents affects us. I thought it was really beautiful watching the governess build this relationship with these children. I really enjoyed this book and really highly recommend it. It sounds silly and it is goofy at some points, but it's also very beautiful and very moving. So if you haven't given this a try yet and it sounds interesting to you, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. The next book I got was Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is the only Tiffany D. Jackson book that I don't own besides The Weight of Blood, which I am going to get a copy of eventually. But I read this a while ago via audiobook and via ebook. I did like a dual sort of thing. I was like lukewarm about this. The storytelling is really good throughout this story. There's a lot of intrigue, but infamously, I remember this was like a solid 4 star read until like the very end, and at the very end I was just blown away. And I am so excited to have a physical copy of this because I really want to reread this knowing what happens at the end or what is said at the end, so that I can kind of analyze the previous text for anything that might reveal or hint at what happens at the end. So very excited to finally have a physical copy of this. I highly recommend this if you haven't already. Monday's Not Coming and Allegedly are my two favorite Tiffany D. Jackson books because of the twists. So if you like something that will make you go like, highly recommend Allegedly and also Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. And the last book that I have already read that I got a copy of in this thrift books haul is The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. I thought this was a paperback. I actually think it still says paperback on the receipt, but this is a hardback. If you know me, you know that I prefer paperbacks, but I'm not mad that I got this in a hardback. This is one of my favorite books of all time. One of my favorite reads of 2021. It made me cry when I read an e-arc for a book tour. It's just such a beautiful book. Concept is that there are two brothers. The older brother has this power that he got after a car crash one day where he touches things and he's able to see kind of like their demise, how they end. So he'll touch a car and he sees that the car ends up submerged in the bottom of a lake. A lot more happens in the book than this brother struggling with that power and the anxiety it gives him. But the general exploration of the cost of knowing is just so powerful and so beautiful, especially when juxtaposed with these two young black boys who have to deal with living in America as two young black boys. Brittany Morris, I've read only 2 books of hers, Slay and then Cost of Knowing, and they are just so beautifully done, not only with the commentary, but the character building, the relationship building. It's all so beautiful. I highly recommend both of her books if you haven't read them already, but I really recommend Cost of Knowing because this was so powerful and so amazing. So I did end up getting 2 other books that I haven't read yet from thrift books because if you spend like more than $50 you get free shipping. The first of those books that I got is Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center. This copy has seen better days for sure. So this is a contemporary novel about a woman who is the only female firefighter in her squadron, and it kind of goes through her life as a female firefighter, reflecting on what she's experienced and whatnot. I think this will be really good. I actually had a library copy and I was maybe 100 pages into it before I had to return it. So I picked up a physical copy because it was really cheap, and hopefully I enjoy the rest of it. Alright, and the last book I got in this haul is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. This is probably his most popular book besides The Virgin Suicides, and it will be my 3rd book of his that I've read. So I really like The Virgin Suicides. I hated the marriage plot, but I've heard nothing but good things about Middlesex from people that I trust, so hopefully I enjoy this. This is kind of like a family history where you follow several generations of a family in American history. So yeah, I think this will be really interesting, and again, I've heard really good things about it. I have a library copy right there actually, but I was interested in owning a physical copy because I think I will really enjoy this. So those are the books I got. I really like being able to buy physical copies of books that I've already read, because that means that I get to enjoy them again and enjoy them in my most favorite method of reading. So I'm very excited to get to all of these books, be able to annotate them, to revisit these stories, and to maybe even have some fun with trying to figure out all of the clues to twists and whatnot beforehand and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!